I think our audience deserves some good news. And so I will be fair, and we're going to do a feel-good story. And this story is Federal Election Commission finds DNC and Clinton over Russiagate hoax.
Nice.
That's
yes, refreshing.
Your feel-good story of the evening. Hillary Clinton only got fined, I think, a small amount of money. But let's read. According to a scoop from Paul Bedard of the Washington Examiner, the election agency said that Clinton and the DNC violated strict rules on describing expenditures of payments funneled to the opposition research firm Fusion GPS through their law firm. A combined $1,024,407.97 was paid by the treasurers of the DNC and the Clinton campaign to law firm Perkins Coie for Fusion GPS's information. And the party and campaign hid the reason, claiming it was for legal services, not opposition research. Instead, the DNC's $849,407.97 and the Clinton campaign's $175,000 covered Fusion GPS's opposition research on the dossier, a basis for the so-called Russia hoax that dogged Trump's first term. So I believe we have the numbers here. The report says the agency fined Clinton's treasurer $8,000 and the DNC $105,000. So it could be good news, but I do kind of feel like a lot of people are going to see that and say it's sweeping it under the rug.
Well, there's more news too. The Federal Election Commission was just found dead.
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
Just the entirety of the organization just gone overnight.
The organization died.
We have
mysteriously in its sleep. No,
you know what I love about the Hillary Clinton meme is that it like regular people used it.
Yeah,
like normies talking about video games.
100%.
Like a video game company goes out of business, and then the fake tweet appears. Like
Yes.
a game, like because it's just funny.
It's fun. No, but I mean, this is. I have trouble getting excited about things like this, to be perfectly honest with you, because it feels like the carrot they dangle in front of you, you know? And I'm tired of having carrots dangled in front of people, and I think people are tired of it. They just want the damn carrot. They don't want a nibble of it. They don't want to keep seeing it waved in front of them. Right. They want the whole carrot. They know what's going on. And that's the thing is, for so long, we've had it just, and it's almost insulting, honestly. $8,000, like, come on. Hillary Clinton doesn't care about $8,000. That's the other insulting part of it. So I kind of find it insulting more so than good news.
I mean, it could be the precursor to something. I mean, Donald Trump is suing the DNC, suing Clinton, or the DC. He's suing a whole bunch of Democrats over the Russiagate hoaxes. This obviously will play very well into his lawsuit.
Yeah, no, this will help him for sure.
But where do we go from here if there is no accountability for people like this who are still running? And as we talked about in the previous segment, they're trying to stop you from being able to go into Congress.
I mean, I think we're going to see that decline only speed up if there continues to be no consequences and they continue to be able to sort of build this machine that keeps out outsiders, then it's just going to get worse faster, you know? Whereas I feel like if we get this right in 2022, and this is probably the best chance we've got because people are so angry right now, at least in this time period. I mean, you can argue a lot of things maybe in 2026, 2030 may happen that may make people take a different route. But in this election, I feel like we do have a great opportunity. There are strong people, and not just in Congress. I'm talking locally. I mean, what did we learn from COVID? Who you elect locally matters more than who you elect for president in so many cases.
Yep.
You know, that's what changed your life during COVID was who your mayor was, who your, local sheriff was and all that. So people need to show up. And the other lesson for all of this, though, is show up to primaries and local elections. They're more important than the general even. I would argue that because we need to pick the very best people for all of these positions.
What's your district is Republican?
District 5. Yeah, it's a Republican district.
You know the Cook PVI is?
I think it's plus 12 now in the new district. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was actually plus 17 at one point, Democrat. And it had been a Democrat seat for over 100 years, but it was redistricted this year because the population growth in Middle Tennessee over the past decade has been massive, just exploded. And it's largely the exodus of conservatives out of California, New York, and Illinois.
Coming in.
Well,
Daily Wire.
Yep.
They
Daily
brought all
Wire.
their employees.
There's a bunch of companies coming in, just left and right companies, because we're a very business-friendly state. We're one of those states with a 0% state tax, too, when you come here. So it's very friendly and enticing.
This means that the primary is the actual election.
Yes.
Because whoever wins the primary is going to win basically no matter what.
Yep.
So you need to make sure, all of you listening, that you go out and vote in your primaries and your local elections. Enough states, we're really close to a constitutional convention.
Very close. Very close.
That means if people all go out, if every single person who listened to this show went and told all of their immediate friends, hey, we're going to go vote in the local elections.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure Republicans would win these states.
Well, and consider this too, okay? So this is the other thing. We have to think tactically. So if you're looking at elections right now and you say, you know what, in my district, it doesn't really matter. We're very safe. We've got a good person, or there's no way you're getting this person, whatever it is, okay? You can make a difference in other parts of the country. You can phone bank for other parts of the country. Find races that matter, where it does matter. Like you say, I have to get that person in. You know, there may be some guy on like a podcast you really like, you know, like with a cool name like Robbie, and you're like, hey, I want to make sure that guy gets elected. Go and actually do something to that effect. You know, you don't even have to live there. You can do it these are federal races, but then in the local side of things, make sure you're involved. Make sure you know who your mayor is. You know where they stand on things. Yeah. Because that's been the shock for a lot of people. They've found their mayors are little tyrants who want to control their lives. Let's make sure we don't do that anymore. Let's elect people who actually want the people to be free.
What's the best way? You're going to be hanging out with, so when you get elected, you're going to be hanging out with like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey and the Freedom Caucus people?
Absolutely.
Because that's what we need more of.
Yes.
I hear more and more stories from them. The thing about Marjorie was that she came on the show. She's been on the show, I think, twice now. And a lot of people messaged me saying, we only heard crazy things about her and we never really looked into it. But then when she told the story about how she forced members of Congress to do an actual vote on bills,
yeah,
I'm getting all these messages from people cheering, being like, wow.
She had the backbone to risk a lot of things. I can't like fully go into, but she risked a lot of things to support me. And I will always appreciate that. And like I said, politics is a business where they want you to stab your friends in the back, and I refuse to do it. I will never, ever do that, or, you know, talk down about somebody who's been an incredible friend or supporter. And she cares. She cares about this country. She cares about freedom. She cares about people. Like, and I think that's one of the things that people would be surprised by is even if you disagreed with her, if you just sat down and talked with her, she cares about our country. She cares about people. Yep. And she doesn't want anybody hurting, you know.
But this was an amazing thing for us to learn, thanks to the Freedom Caucus and many of these other people, is that members of Congress don't actually vote on these bills.
Yeah.
They just have proxies and like they're just banging a gavel and just shuffling it through. Like, yes, you know, whatever, who cares? It's almost like there's no Congress at this point. I mean, look, Nancy Pelosi pushes through her spending bill. Nobody has a chance to read it. Whoever is Speaker of the House just makes it happen.
It was supposed to be, at least according to Ben Franklin, the way he was envisioning it was that it would be like a jury duty summons. You'd get a summons to go serve on Congress for a while, and then when you're done, you go home. But people couldn't afford it.
Well, you know, part of why Congress is so broken is it's the fundraising side of things. We have a bunch of people who are good fundraisers, and they're terrible representatives, a bunch of people to that effect. And that's the reality of it. You know, if you're not either independently wealthy or you can't fundraise like crazy, and you're just a really good person with great ideas that can get things done, like you're not winning your race. You have got to be able to spend money in these races. And that's what's terrible, is that it's created this sort of system where you have a bunch of people who, if corporations will come to you and say, like Amazon or Big Pharma or whoever it is, and they say, hey, we'll give you X amount and we'll throw all this money into PACs that are going to support you. These people take the money.
Yeah.
And then it is a quid pro quo, and nobody will admit it, but I'm admitting it. You know, that's 100% what these people are doing. And it's why I refuse to take their money, because we need to be able to put a line in the sand and say, this whole thing that's been going on, this is what is ruining our country. Nobody's going in there to votes or to reading or to writing or legislating in any part, any segment of it, and saying, hey, how's this going to affect like your average family in the middle of the country?
What I don't get is why does it cost money? Because I made a YouTube channel in 2006. I was like, wow, I've got 10,000 subscribers pretty quick. I don't need money to run for office now. I have what money buys, which is the platform to speak. So what do you need money for exactly?
So I have a large platform, and that's what a lot of people ask me is they're like, well, why would I need to donate to you? You have like almost 1 million followers via all your social media. Like, why would you need me? Millions of people watch you, blah, blah, blah. They don't live in my district. You know, maybe 24% of my district consumes their content online. The rest of them, either it's like still newspapers, they listen to radio or their TV, or they don't do any of that, and they're people who work. They work for a living. They go home. They spend time with their family. That's it. They're pretty disconnected from what's going on in the news. You have to be able to send out mailers. You have to be able to make sure your name's out there. And especially in primaries, the number one predictor of primary who's going to win is name ID. So if you actually do a poll on just name ID, have you heard this name before? That person's much more likely to win if they're higher in name ID, whether it's good, bad, indifferent. Doesn't matter. If they just know the name.
People are going to be like, Starbuck, that sounds familiar. You get my vote.
Yeah, well, you know, that's part of the hope. But no, you've got to be able to get this stuff out there and actually make people feel something about you, and that's a good thing, whether it's good or bad, because you've got to stand in what you actually are going to do, and in my case, it's a good thing because I'm in a conservative district, but you've got to pay for the ads. That's the other thing, is that ads are one of the critical ways, if there's another, let's say 28% of people who watch everything that they get about politics on TV, if you're not present in those ads, you're not there in their ad space and that time they're spending watching TV, but your opponent is, you're in trouble. And I've seen that in a lot of races where there's an incredible person, but they raised just not enough money to be able to do ads outside of maybe one or two places. And their opponent has money from, all these corporate super PACs, and they can just flood the zone. Flooding the zone is the name of the game. They know how to flood the zone in these places where people consume this content. The person becomes more familiar with the name, and maybe their only familiarity with your name now is that corporate PAC who ran negative ads against you, saying this person, they hate Trump. Watch this video where they hated Trump. And it'll be like a video of this person doing that. But in reality, the truth of it is, it was a video of that person playing a part during a party game where they're explaining what you do during voting, and they just took it entirely out of context. But the people watching it will never know that, Yes. That's something you've got to sort of be able to battle, and if you don't have the money to do it, then people are going to have the wrong impression about you. So like in my case, the thing they're going to go after is say, he's too Hollywood. He's directed, all these people who are Hollywood values and blah, blah, blah. How do you know he's really going to fight for you? And it's like, what have you done? What have you done? And if you can't fight back or credibly give people an argument for why they should vote for you, then they're just going to move on, and do what feels comfortable.
I love getting these text messages. I just pulled one up from this past week. This is somebody running against Lauren Boebert, and that's basically their pitch. That's it. Yeah, we don't like her, and give us money.
Maybe not that it's maybe not illegal is the right way, but running smear ads. How can you justify taking political money and then running an ad to make someone else look bad? What does that have to do with your political campaign?
That is all they're going to do in my race against me, because I have higher name ID than basically everybody in the field. And so the problem with that for them is they want to make sure that's attached to something negative. So for them, that's Hollywood. They feel like the Hollywood thing's going to really hurt. See, my whole thought on that is actually pretty far out from where they're at, I think, because I'm like, this is what they tried to do to Trump. People don't believe this crap anymore. Yeah. I directed something that had violence in it or something like that. It's like, yeah, that was my job. This is not reality. It was not reality. It was part of my job. People actually care about where you're at on policy,
Yeah, they'll see that commercial where it's like, and Robbie Starbucks, something. It's all black and white, and then it shows the other guy with the sunshine. Is like, and this guy does the thing.
Well, they'll
search your name and they'll see you talking on this show and stuff. And they'll be like, oh, this is the guy.
Yes, that's the real person.
It's good marketing.
So, and it depends. Do they care enough to do that? That's the real question. Do enough people care enough to do that, to make that search, to take that leap and say, am I being lied to? I think people are becoming more awake to that and the necessity of doing things like that. But, the reality is that you've got to meet people where they are. And that's the big part of fundraising, is that. And so, you're at a handicap if you say, I'm just going to refuse all the corporate money. But I think it's critical to the direction we're going as a country. You've got to take that stand. And a bunch of members criticized me early on. They were like, dude, I get it. I want to do the same thing, but you've got to just do this so you win.
No.
And I'm like, I would rather sell my house. Dead serious. For my kids, I would rather sell my house than take money from Amazon. Because that is just the beginning of you compromising values.
We'll clarify too. I mean, when you say take money, typically it's like they dump it into a super PAC and then run ads on your behalf.
Yeah.
Usually they're like the super PAC and the candidate don't coordinate, but they do.
It's BS.
And then so if Amazon put however much, what would be their maximum amount that Amazon could put into a campaign for someone?
Yeah.
Unlimited. In a PAC, it's unlimited.
Okay, so
in a PAC, it's unlimited.
And then what if you're just like, thanks, you run the campaign, you win, and then you're like, bye Amazon, I'm not involved anymore. Thanks for helping me. Like, now I'm going to do what I want to do.
I've never seen anybody do it.
What typically happens when you're running an illegal bribery scheme and then you don't give the guys who bribed you what they've asked for?
They come cracking the knuckles, son.
No, that's exactly it. It's like, okay, go off the premise of how this all works. If you really made a backroom deal with some company that you're going to do their bidding and do what they want, and they dump in millions into your PAC to make sure you can go do that, do you really think that they won't go out and expose you in some way? Because the company is going to get a slap on the wrist. But you you'll get in real trouble. You're
come
an
after your
individual.
kids.
It's supposed to be it's a donation. Those are donations, right? They're making donations which have no quid pro quo attached to them.
Well, and there's a lot of rules with the PACs. So, like, you're not supposed to communicate or anything like that with them. As a candidate, I can't talk to a PAC. I don't even have a PAC. But if I did have a PAC, let's say closer to the election, I can't communicate in any way with them. There's ways you're allowed to go speak at events and things like that, but it's a very serious rule. You can't, you're not supposed to, at least. But the good people follow the rules, and the vast majority don't follow those rules.
I don't think I think there's like 3 or maybe like 5 good people.
Yeah.
Most people may be well-intentioned when they get in, but then like you said, they're like, look, it's
they're corrupted.
One thing you got to do. You just got to do it.
Yep. That's the first compromise is the last compromise, because the minute you start doing it, it will never stop.
And Donald
It'll
Trump,
just keep going.
You just know that when he got in office, they sat him down, the intelligence agencies, and they were like, this is the plan and the mission. This is what we're doing. And he went, no, excuse me. We're getting our troops out. It's not happening. And they got pissed off.
That's why I love the guy. That's why I love the guy. People, this is what's funny is after he endorsed the other candidate in this race, and everybody was like, you got to be so mad. All these news outlets come, NBC, CNN, all these places are like, do you want to come? Like, obviously, they want me to go in and bash him. They're like, we've got division in the MAGA movement. Candace Owens went against what Trump said. Marjorie Taylor Greene went against what he said. His own lawyers went against it, and goes on and on and on. And, I was like, this is everything you guys want now. I'm not going to do it. I love the guy. Like, he's hilarious. This is the energy. We need people who are outsiders who are going to fight this insane system. They're going to make mistakes along the way. They're not always going to be perfect, but they're going to do their damn best to do what people need.
It feels like a plane that's going down, and we need a pilot to help us crash land, because the Federal Reserve had this. It's been going on for 100 years. They've been printing and printing and printing to a point where we owe more interest than we can pay back now. And they're using this global catastrophe as like the COVID shutdown as an excuse.
To reset it?
As an excuse,
reset?
but
like
it was headed towards
like a great reset?
A big, really
a
big,
big one? You'd call it almost
It'd
great?
be more like a gargantuan reset.
Gargantuan,
yeah,
yes.
the gargantuan reset or something.
It sounds accurate.
Yes.
Looking back. Just a little one.
But so, I just don't know how to. I hope someone can crash land it properly. We do need people with high energy. That at least what we need is like a shared vision of reality.
Yes. This is something that is critical. Okay, critical to the future of our country. We have so many mixed realities right now. And one of the most unifying things for a society is your fundamental ability to agree on what reality is. Even language. Like, look at language in our country. We can't even agree on words right now.
Well, we can, but there are people who are lying.
Yeah, but exactly. But then they're confusing people who are growing up
Yep.
in this environment. And those people who are growing up confused, I don't blame them. I blame the evil people who are doing this. But what they're producing and what they're trying to do is create the elements necessary to bring full-bore communism. That's my deepest belief. My family already fled communism once. Everything they're doing now is not new. This is something that's been done many times before, and it was done in Cuba where my family had to flee. This is not a new thing. We just need to wake up and stop it before it comes to reality and destroys the future of our country. This is decision time. And we have a lot of people who have decision fatigue in our country, where they're tired. They're tired of making decisions. But this is the time where people need to be strong and say, you know what, we've got to make those right decisions. We got to do things and make sacrifices now, because if we don't, we're going to end up in a situation where we're going to have to make some really, really serious sacrifices. And that's the truth of it. So if people wake up enough and they say, I can make this small sacrifice now, great. If they don't, though, I think we're going to end up in a situation where they're going to be forced into serious sacrifice.
So you want people to just put forth that extra burst of energy, like when you're near the end of a race, and you just can't run anymore.
Yeah,
you
in
keep
everything,
running?
not just with me. Not just like, go donate to my campaign at Starbucks2022.com. Not just that, okay? But like actual energy in everyday life about living your values. Like this Disney thing. I think we're probably going to talk about, right? The Disney thing. Don't go take your kid to Disneyland. It's not going to ruin their life. Don't give Disney more money. Don't give money to people who hate you.
Well, there are a lot of traffickers that are getting arrested at Disney over the past several years. I don't know. I probably wouldn't want to go there anyway.
Don't go there. Don't give them your money. Show some strength. Have a spine. Cancel your Netflix account. All these companies who hate you, stop giving them your money.
See, I have no Netflix, but people here do have Netflix. Yeah. So it's like it's on anyway. I when Disney Plus came out, I bought a year because it's always cheaper just to buy the year forward. And then what happened was the Uyghur Muslim thing, and I was like, so I'm not going to be renewing it, that's for sure. Yeah. And it's all around not that good in my opinion.
When we start demanding that our values are actually able to be lived out in everything we do, things will change.
But my point that I'm trying to get to is the answer isn't, in my opinion, to tell everybody to cancel their Netflix. I see some people are mentioning they did. obviously you want to cancel your Netflix, but the real answer is Daily Wire needs to ramp up.
Yes, absolutely.
We need to start producing more
Yes.
cultural content. People who are anti-establishment, it's not just about conservative. It's about you're anti-establishment, you're populist, you're libertarian. These are the values that most of us share. I wanted to watch Hyperions. I wanted to watch the new Daily Wire movie, but I can't watch it on my TV because you've got Daily Wire on like Roku or whatever, but I have a smart TV.
Yeah.
That means Daily Wire needs to make an LG app. Guys, what are you doing? And I think, I don't know if they have the Sony app, but our Sony TV is Android based. So I think we can download the Android.
That's a good word,
app.
download, dude.
I'm going to have to check because I checked about 3 or 4 months ago and I couldn't do it on a Sony TV. But, you know, hopefully they have, because I think that you are absolutely right.
If it's an Android
this
TV,
is
you
a
should be able to.
critical next step. We've got to, you know, fill these holes in culture in every way. You know, school choice is another example of this. You know, I know it's a far leap for a lot of people from talking about entertainment, but these are cultural pillars. And think about how different our country is going to look if you told parents, you know, like, let's take a place like Baltimore, okay? They take about $17,500 per child they earmark for them to go to public school. Meanwhile, they're producing kids, 1 out of 10 graduate high school in Baltimore proficient in math and reading, okay? That's not something that should ever happen in America. Now, imagine you take that $17,500, you hand it to parents, and you say, do what you want to educate your child. It is up to you, your job, you handle it, no strings attached from government. Government is not going to get in the way of this. Do what you want. Imagine 20% of them decide to homeschool, and now you have 20% more kids in our country staying at home with a parent for those formative years. What kind of cultural effects are there going to be long term? It's going to be massive. Everything you can think of, from incarceration rates to, you know, the jobs that people choose, you know, family, how long people stay together, everything will change. Everything will change in society based off just these small things that will change from school choice. And if you fill those gaps, give people choice, and this is another one, you know, with Daily Wire, it's truly about not just getting conservative content out there. It's about giving people a real choice. Right now, we live in a system in the entertainment industry and everywhere else where we don't really have real choices. It's basically you have 10 options of the same left-wing garbage, and that's it. You know, that's not a choice.
That's why I started making my own. Same with music, too.
I want to shout out this meme I posted on Twitter. So somebody posted, so let's start with James Lindsay. He said, this is art, slippery slope fallacy. You're overreacting. And then it's like, you know, Disney employees. And then I responded, quote, so what if government employees want to have sexual conversations with your 4-year-old in secret? And then someone posted this meme. When you tell a Democrat they can't teach sex to kindergartners, and it's the Arthur making a fist.
Where they're getting mad.
Well, I fixed it. I put, when you tell a Democrat they can't have sexual conversations with 4-year-olds in secret. Because that's what's going on in Florida, which has resulted in all of this
That's
outrage.
what Democrats want.
It's and I'm not going to mince words, because I'm just, anybody who knowingly opposes the parental rights and education bill is saying, why can't we have secret conversations with 4 to 9-year-olds about sexual topics?
Yeah. It's a pedophile agenda.
It's complete groomer. It's pedophile adjacent at the very least. But there's a lot of crypto pedos, you know?
What does that mean?
No, it's a pedophile agenda.
Like cryptically?
Yeah. So crypto pedo means they're people who are claiming that we're just trying to teach children. Why are you stopping us? And then they, behind the scenes, they're like, yeah, about sexual conversations in private with adults.
Yeah, there's that love movement, child love. But the thing is, there's so many, love has 7 definitions
No,
at the very least. Eros is one of them, and you don't do that with kids.
Yeah, this is one of those stages of going into communism. Because first of all, it fits a couple different categories. Separating children from their parents, okay? Communists love to do that. They like to separate kids from their parents because fundamentally they need to take over a parental role. They need that child to see them as a parent. And that's what bills like this do, is push us closer, or not the bill, but the action that they want, and why they're so mad about the bill, is they want to be able to push those kids closer to the state being mommy or daddy, okay? And if they can't talk to them about these critical issues that are supposed to be things that parents talk to their kids about and teach their kids about, you know, that's a problem for them, because that's getting in the way of their agenda. Now, beyond just that, this is just step one. The next step in this is if they feel like they can move the Overton window far enough over, where suddenly you get 50% of Democrats, or 60 or 70 or 80 okay with this idea that, yes, in fact, the state does have a right to have a sexual conversation with a 4-year-old and share their own sexuality and sex life with their 4-year-old. If that becomes normalized, what's next? It's going to be a child sexual rights agenda. And that's what people need to be woke to, is that's what's coming down the line next. And if you're not aware of it now, and you don't fight this, and you don't do what you can to stop this now, then you're just
I gotta
okay
be
with that
honest,
next step.
You know, I got to be honest. If you go back in time, there was talk about the slippery slope, and it all happened. And now here we are 10 years later, and once again we're having the same conversations. It's going to get bad, and
I hope that at least the reality of knowing that there's been some things that were correct about that is going to wake people up enough to say, ooh, maybe there's something we need to do differently here.
Yeah, big time.
You know?
Knowing what the system is doing
Yeah.
drastically changes the system itself.
Yeah, the calculus has changed, you know? And I think that's something that we all need to take really seriously. I mean, that's what my wife does is, you know, she works in this area. She's actually launching a nonprofit to do exactly this, stop child exploitation, because we've essentially created a pipeline for kids from birth to exploit them. You know, look at social media, how early kids are on TikTok or how early they're on Instagram pages with absolutely no oversight. And we teach girls specifically that like commodifying yourself, making yourself into a commodity and it's your body essentially is a good thing. That's the stuff broken societies do.
Dude, I was just thinking about little kids seeing pornography on the internet like when they're 2, 3, and 4 years old.
You know what the
How
average
horrible.
age is?
My guess is 4. What is it?
The average age in America right now where somebody's exposed to hardcore porn, so like a video, is 11.
That's
11
what we
years
know
old.
of. That's documented.
Yeah, that's
because kids might
documented.
see it, not even know they're seeing it when they're 3 or 4.
That's the average. Yeah, they wouldn't
So-
be able to answer the question when they do those things where they try to figure this out. They wouldn't even be able to answer at 3 or 4. So if you just said, you know, that probably likely happens to a certain extent, you would probably say that number in reality is a little bit lower, but that's the one that's documented, is that it's at least 11. It shouldn't be that way, you know, and this is not, we're not talking about like them sneaking under their grandpa's, you know, mattress and getting a Playboy. This is really graphic stuff.
Yeah, I'm
this
thinking
is horrific stuff that they're seeing.
It's the first time in human history that I know of that humans have been exposed to this kind of content at that age. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering if the people that are in their 20s now are the people that saw that stuff when they were 4.
Yeah.
In 2003 when internet video appeared.
Yeah.
And now they're teaching. Now they're teachers.
Well, I have somewhat of a controversial take too when it comes to porn, and it's that, you know, I feel like we as men have a responsibility to normalize the fact that you should feel emasculated if you have to watch porn. I feel like we should try to normalize normal sexual healthy relationships with your spouse, and that, you know, porn in itself is not doing anything positive for you. Like if you look at things from a net positive or net life drain basis, it's draining things from your life and nothing it's producing is really good for you.
You know, just like we were saying, profane things aren't necessarily the F word. You
Yeah.
can be profane. I think you can be pornographic without sex. And not all sex is pornographic. It's just, you know, it's the way that it's portrayed.
I'm not sure I fully understand
yeah,
that.
I
It's
don't
a
know.
long
I
combo.
think you were wrong about that.
I
one.
watch a lot of
That was a
porn.
one.
You could say there's some that's like healthy sex, people enjoying themselves, and there's some where
I suppose if
it's
you're watching
bad.
like an educational science, you know, thing that's like very dry and you know, just like an old man is going, as the man becomes aroused.
But who needs that though?
like,
honestly,
you know, if you're like in med school, you know, or you're a biologist or
I'm
something.
sorry, if you're a
That's not what I
biologist or
mean.
you're in med school and you need to see that video, you should probably pick a
No,
different
you're
job.
completely
you
wrong.
know?
I'm talking about an educational thing showing like organs, like you.
Okay,
you-
that's okay. I thought you meant like a play-by-play on how sex works.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.